Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. This is Tambra's Tales and Tips. Today it's story time. So today my story is what it was like working for the VA, Veterans Affairs. I worked for the VA for 7 years, and I want to tell you about it, the good, the bad, the ugly. Okay? So grab a coffee or a tea, get cozy with me, and let's get started. What was it like? Well, the good, it was an honor to do that job. I was a medical support assistant. Truly, that's just a fancy way of I was a scheduler. I scheduled appointments. I managed my doctor's uh, vacation calendar. I helped with filling out paperwork, administrative stuff. We were the face of the clinics. We were the ones that the patients talked to first. So if there was a bad encounter to be had, it happened with us. So we got the heat. If a patient was unhappy, we got the heat. So it truly was an honor. I worked at a hospital. I worked at the Ann Arbor VA, and that hospital was amazing. I saw so many providers, doctors, nurses, staff that really worked really hard. They were very patient centered. They just went out of their way to try to provide quality care. And not all VA hospitals are created equal. There are some hospitals in different parts of the country that are not patient centered, and they've got a history of being terrible. I am proud to say that the one that I worked at was not that way. That hospital got a silver rating, which is very hard to get. Only, I think, 5 hospitals in the nation get that, and mine was one of them. So it was an honor. It really was, and it was humbling to work there. And my staff, I worked in physical medicine and rehab, and it's a pain management clinic. I had altogether all the clinics that I scheduled for, it was 10 clinics. I started out with 6, and then over time it gradually became 10. And it was busy. It was so busy. It was too busy. And that's the problem with government, is that there's not enough staff. And we definitely did not have enough staff to be able to accommodate the number of patients. We would have patients that would drive 4-5 hours just to come to our appointment, just to come to the hospital, because our hospital had such a good reputation. And it was humbling that we had such a good reputation, but it was also very busy. And that job was hard. It was hard. It was probably one of the hardest jobs I've ever done. And that's saying something, because I was in the military for 22 years. So, but it was hard because I genuinely cared. I had patients that were in pain and they needed help and they want it now. And because most people, I understand where they're coming from. Most people don't seek help for, go to the doctor until it's been a problem for a very long time. And now they're at their wits' end with it. So now they want to be seen tomorrow, right? And because we had so many patients, that just wasn't possible. We didn't have the capacity. I had 7 doctors, and all 7 of them were just just full of patients. And most of the time, our wait time was 2 to 3 weeks. And that is not what these patients want to hear. And they would go off. And I was getting screamed at almost every single day. Yep, almost every single day I was getting screamed at. And so the good of working for the VA was that as a veteran myself, it was, I felt very honored and privileged to be able to provide help to fellow veterans, to be there for them. Because veterans, no matter what branch, we're a family. We all care about each other and we have each other's backs. So to be able to be in that position to do that was truly, it was, I keep saying that, but it was an honor and a privilege. It really was. And then the people I worked with, my providers, my doctors were, if someone called and they're in agony, my doctors would squeeze them in. They would double book and have these patients come in. So, to have doctors that were willing to do that was made my job a lot easier. Um, but so now the bad, there was way too much work and not enough staff. I had 11, well, at one time I had 12 clinics, but it dropped down to 10. And I kept asking for help. And we just didn't have enough staff to be able to help me. And it burned me out. That's why I retired, is because I was tired. I was burned out. I was tired of getting screamed at every single day. And I had enough, and it's unfortunate because I was glad to be there. But if I have to be honest, I did not like that job. I didn't, because it was just, it was hard to be the face of the clinic, to be the representative of the clinic, and have people scream at you every day. Um, and then, some of them justified, a lot of them not, because we had in my clinic, we did do injections to treat the pain. Like if you had a bum shoulder, hip, or a knee, we would help with that. But there was time limits for that. Like for a steroid injection, it's 3 months. For a gel injection, it's 6 months. And you can't do it sooner than that because it will build an immunity and nothing will help if you do it too soon or too often. And so these patients that just had an injection a week are calling, screaming that they're still in pain. And it's like, you're empathetic to them, but there's really nothing you can do because my clinic does not prescribe pain medication. We're not allowed to do that. And so they're like losing their cool on me about it. And I would have our nurse call them and talk to them. And, they want what they want. They want pain meds. They want the pain to go away. And you get it. Like, I totally understand. I have chronic pain. I get it. But they just do not, they want what they want. And there are patients, society will have you believe that veterans are honor and integrity and high morals. And I'm here to tell you that veterans are just as faulty, just as flawed as civilians. They do not have abundance of honor and integrity and morals and all that. They're just as flawed, if not more so, because of the trauma they experienced. So I would have these veterans that would curse at me. They would be inappropriate. I had one of my doctors, we did video appointments, and she was doing a video appointment and the screen came on and there was a veteran pleasuring himself right there on camera in front of her. And he knew darn well what he was doing because he was talking to her as he was doing this. So of course she shut it off. And so just things like that. And these veterans, like I said, they want what they want and they will lie to you. They will look you in the eye and they will lie to you. If you ask them, you ask them a question like, when was your last injection? Oh, that was like a year ago. You look in their medical chart. Oh, it was about 3 weeks ago. So they do. They want what they want, almost like children in a way. And I say this because I'm a veteran as well, and I'm not like that. I don't exhibit those kind of, I don't show those kind of behaviors. I'm damaged in my own way, but I'm not like that. And I'm not entitled. I don't feel I deserve special treatment. And there is quite a few that feel that they deserve special treatment. I do not feel that way. I don't demand that. Veterans do need to be treated like the heroes that they are. However, it's different when they demand it. They expect it and they demand it. And when you don't treat them that way, they completely lose their minds on you. So, and I did not treat them that way. I treated them like a regular human being with respect and dignity. And they want to be treated like the red carpet treatment, some of them. And they got upset when I wouldn't, uh, yes, yes, Your Majesty, Um, and they're very entitled. Some of them really are, not all of them. For two that are terrible, you'll have 10 that are wonderful, that are very sweet, very kind. Some of my patients, I had one that would give me, um, like little coupons to Starbucks and would give me a piece of candy because he liked me. Um, or they would just call up just to say hi, or they would call and say Merry Christmas, you know. So those made it okay. Um, I had one, it was a wife, and one of my clinics was the traumatic brain injury clinic. And the wife, she called, and I don't sit in on the clinic appointments with the doctor. I just run the front desk. I'm the behind the scenes. I call and schedule appointments. So this wife calls me and she's just screaming at me, just like literally screaming at me, and about something that happened in the clinic. And I'm just like, I just sat there and let her scream at me. And it was horrible. I was shaking when it was done. And these people forget that you're talking to a human. We're not computer. We're not robots. We're human beings that have empathy, and we want to be able to help. But there's only so much we can do, right? And she just lost her mind on me. She wanted someone to scream at, and I was the lucky gal that got it that day. And seriously, when I was done, I was like, oh. Um, and all I could tell her is, if you can lodge a complaint and talk to a patient advocate, and I can, forward you over to them. I can send you over to the patient advocate, through the phone transfer. And she just, no, that's not what she wanted. She just wanted to scream. So I just sat there and I let her scream. So, and that's just, people would do that. And it depended on the situation. Sometimes I would tolerate it. Sometimes I wouldn't, because I'm not your punching bag, and I'm a person too. And so that was a very hard job. I'm sure out in the private sector with regular clinics and hospitals, they get it. They get it as well. I know when I would go to the doctor's office, a civilian doctor, I don't get my care at the VA. I am eligible, but I don't because I am very healthy. So I don't want to take up a spot for someone that really desperately needs to be there. Maybe when I get older and I start, if I'm sick or whatever, I will go. But it's not because I don't trust their care. In fact, I trust them more because they have more regulations and things like that they have to follow. They're watched more than out in the private sector. So I would definitely trust their care more, but I don't, because I don't want to take a slot for someone that really needs to be there. Um, but I lost my train of thought. Sorry, but the VA is, not all hospitals are created equal, and I've heard horror stories of other hospitals, and the news doesn't help, and so we get a bad rap. but truly the one that I worked at was amazing. Just the care that I saw there was just amazing. But the thing is, a lot of people don't realize is that we are not allowed to turn patients away. So if like in the private sector, doctor's offices, not so much emergency rooms, but doctor's offices, they can turn patients away. They could be like, no, we're not going to deal with you. Whereas the VA, even in the clinics, we're not allowed to turn patients away. We can't. And some of these veterans are dangerous, legit dangerous. And the VA does have VA police. They are armed. And I think that's the only reason why we've been protected so far, somewhat protected. But like I got a feel of it when I was in my orientation and they were showing us self-defense techniques in orientation. So, um, but like I had a guy threaten me. He was a really, really large man, like 6'5". He used to be in the NFL years and years ago. This guy, he was in his 60s. He was 65 at the time, and he threatened me. And the thing is because I am a veteran, I pulled rank on him. You know, because I retired as a master sergeant. That's an E7 in the enlisted rank. The highest rank that you can go is E9. So I was only 2 stripes away from being the highest rank that you can achieve. So I was a pretty relatively high rank. And so technically I outranked him. So I pulled rank on him and I called him by his rank and I told him, I said, you will sit down right now. And he did. He sat down. And I just looked at him and I said, I am more than willing to help you, but you are not going to threaten me like that. Do you understand? And he was like, yes, ma'am. You know? So there is that instilled in veterans, that rank and file, that chain of command that we've all been taught. And I did. A few times I pulled rank. I sure did. Yep. And it worked. It worked. But there are situations. One of my doctors, she was being stalked. She had a patient show up at her house, and she has 2 small children, and she was being stalked. I had I heard about one of the patient advocates was at the grocery store with his wife and a toddler, and this guy comes up and threatens the patient advocate. Now, this guy, the patient advocate, is a big guy. Like he's probably 6'2", 6'3". He's like, all right, let's go outside. Let's take care of this man to man. And that service member backed down right away because he didn't bow down to him. Because some of them are bullies, you know, and that's the same way in the civilian world. Some of them are bullies. But in our hospital, we can't turn them away. We put a flag on their medical chart to say, hey, they're dangerous. We had one that was a missing patient, and literally on the flag, this guy has homicidal intent. So you've got a guy that's clearly going around saying he wants to kill people, is now missing in the hospital. Fortunately, they found him right away. But still, that was scary. You know, like, come on, that was scary. So there were times I did not feel safe in that hospital. Um, During COVID, they put up plexiglass at the front desks. And after COVID, they kept them there because um, there were times that patients would dive over the counter and attack the MSAs. They would attack the front desk people. So yeah, and that same patient that would do that was allowed to come back. They were allowed to come back because we can't turn them away. So the good was it was an honor to work for the VA, but the bad was it was a lot of work. It was overwhelming, and I got burned out, and I retired because I just couldn't really do it anymore. It was too much. I got burned out. But the people I worked with were wonderful, and I love them dearly. I'm friends with some of them even now. I talk to them, but not all VAs are the same. But the one that I worked at, the VA hospital in Ann Arbor, Michigan, was amazing. It was an absolute amazing experience. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I did ramble a lot. I even lost my train of thought, but um, it was my experience, and I know a lot of people have a lot to say about the VA, but mine was overall, it was relatively positive, but it was a lot of work. And I left because I was just burned out and tired, not because I hated working there. It's just I got tired. All right. Thank you so much. Hit the subscribe button if you like. And I will next week have a video about some tips. So take care, be well, and thank you very much. Bye-bye.